Hello, my name is Kai, and I am a bit of a rambler. I like to travel, learn, and tell stories. And a lot of the time I say, completely changed my life, completely changed how I travel. And a lot of things did. I am traveling and I am living so much differently than I was when I started traveling 15 years ago, or than when I started traveling full time 8 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. And completely differently than I ever imagined I could travel before I left the US 15 years ago. Like, I didn't know this was a way to travel at all. Everything is totally different. And number one, you may not be surprised because it's my favorite invention, the bottle bidet. The bottle bidet. Yes, bidets changed my life. Bidets are great. I don't want to touch my waist. I don't want to be close to it through paper that might rip. That's gross. I find using toilet paper pretty gross. When I got to Thailand and I used a bidet for the first time, I knew I was like, never going back to paper. I'm just going to use water. The problem is, bidets are in Thailand everywhere, and they're in a lot of countries, but they're not in every country. And even in a country like Thailand, there might be a toilet that doesn't have a bidet, which is awful. But now I have the bottle bidet. Poke a hole in the neck of a water bottle, fill up the bottle with water, flip it upside down, spray bidet. It works so well. It works as well as a regular bidet. I cannot believe how well the bottle bidet works. I very much chose places that had nice bathrooms and maybe a bidet, like even if it was in a country that usually didn't. Might choose a more expensive place if it was cleaner, all this stuff. And once I made the bottle bidet and I started using it, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to worry at all about what kind of toilet situation there is. Yeah, it has to be clean enough or whatever, but it doesn't matter if they don't have a bidet or if I can't easily use a bidet because I now have a bidet everywhere. Bottle bidet. I can get any house in a hill, on a mountain, any house I want to anywhere, and then no matter how remote it is or how connected it is, wherever it is and whatever country it is, whatever the situation is, as long as there's a sink, fill up the bottle with water, and I can clean myself. And every single place you rent on Airbnb is going to have water. You can't even list your place without water. So if you're on Booking or whatever, you'll have water. So you can make your bottle bidet. And it's great because it's so much more hygienic. And honestly, just more pleasant that you don't have to go near that stuff. You don't have to get your hands that you touch everything with anywhere near your waist. That's an option. Take that option. I've been using the bottle bidet for all 3 months I've been in Panama, and seriously, every time I use it, I'm like, this is great. This is so great that now I have a bidet everywhere. And yeah, I'm excited for my next apartment because I know I have a bidet there, which is the number one thing I want in my apartment. That's like the most important thing. If I had all the amenities, air conditioning, bidet, all this kind of stuff, if it had a bidet, I'd probably choose that apartment first before all the other considerations. But now I don't have to worry about that consideration because I'm traveling with the bottle bidet, so I always have one. So I can choose all the next best amenities because I already have a bidet no matter where I go. I get to live wherever I want, at the budget I'm comfortable with, and no matter where I am and the other amenities available, I always have this amenity available, the bidet. It's just wonderful. Just wonderful. What else completely changed how I travel in my life? ESL. Not a shocker. Teaching English as a second language. I can see why you thought this would have been first rather than the bottle bidet, but the bottle bidet is more recent in my mind. Anyway, teaching English. Realizing that there are thousands of jobs immediately available for a skill that I have, speaking English, a globally highly valued skill. Every country values native or fluent English, that is. The countries that are really good at it, they might not value English teaching as much because they, nationally invested so much time into learning it. You go to Denmark, they don't need English teachers much. They can speak very good English, some fluent English. Most pretty fluent English. But it's because that skill fluent English speakers have is one of the most highly valued skills on the planet right now. So if you were lucky enough to be born into one of the countries where everybody fluently speaks English, then guess what? You have one of the most coveted skills on the planet. And you can trade that expertise in speaking English for very good compensation, for fair compensation, and a life of travel, and less working time because you work 20 to 25 hours. And it's everywhere. It's on every continent. Except Antarctica. Shut up. Actually, you know what? It is on Antarctica because you can teach remotely in any country. You'll get paid just about the same if you're teaching online. So you can live in any country and get the same pay from Asia, China, if you just teach remotely from any country Asian students. You'll get the higher pay, but you can live anywhere you want, including Antarctica. But that's where the thing is, so don't go there. Unless that's the Arctic? Wait, where was the thing? That's crazy, I can't remember. Antarctica, right? Oh man. What a good movie. Let's talk about The Thing. Did you know that The Thing in 1982 received bad reviews when it came out? How inconceivable is that? Okay, I know we're on an actual, a real podcast episode, so let's move on. The Thing, that movie did kind of change my life, but it didn't really change how I travel. So, ESL. The jobs are everywhere, you work less, get paid more, and you get to travel wherever you want to. It's a pretty good deal, so that obviously completely changed my life and how I travel. It's just, that's a fluent English speaker's passport to everywhere. You can just travel. You can instantly travel indefinitely as a fluent English speaker because ESL, recognizing English speaking as a skill rather than just a default mode of communication for myself was a huge shift where I was like, oh, this is a coveted skill like a mechanic or a world-class chef. Like, people want this skill. And I happen to grow up in an English-speaking country, so I already have it. I've been practicing English for 30 years. That was a very paradigmical understanding of the world shifting moment for me, where I was like, wow, yeah, I can't weld anything, and I'm not a world-class chef. But you know what? I spent 30 years working on this skill that is extremely marketable and makes me a valued asset to thousands of companies globally. And I can choose to do it remotely if I want. That's crazy. There are not a lot of jobs like that. So that certainly, changed my life. Oh, and you can get the certificate to guarantee your jobs. Get a teaching English as a foreign language certificate over, a couple weeks for $40. That's all you have to do. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to train for 12 years. You don't have to get a business degree for 2 years. For 2 weeks, or 1 week if you're really pushing it, it'd be pretty easy to finish the TEFL accreditation, and then you get even higher pay. It's just, when I realized that this was a job because of the skill that I had of speaking English as a native speaker, that is wild. That's so crazy how different the world looks to me now. It's not, that's the country where I'm from, that's where they all speak my language. No, now there's 196 countries or whatever, and I'm like, all of these countries want me to talk in them, and they'll give me stuff for talking. I just get to learn and appreciate cultures and teach them this language that I can speak very well, and the world is open to a fluent English speaker. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And an important corollary to being an English teacher is that you can work from anywhere, remotely or in person, and the cost of living can easily be 25% of what you're used to in the US, which means you're saving more, and you have more freedom of movement and lifestyle. So cost of living is an important corollary to the privilege of being a fluent English speaker and being able to teach English. But how about some practicalities that changed my life? Some down-to-earth, tangible assets. A hammock. Camping completely changed how I travel. If there are 2 trees, I have the most comfortable sleep setup I know of. I've slept on beds of grass and sticks. Takes a while to put together, but if you're in like a forest, the pine needle is pretty easy. And very comfortable. There was this huge, in Ireland, I believe, there was a huge field of clover, and I actually just pulled up a whole bunch of it. It was acres of clover. There's like a crazy amount. No, this was in Italy, actually. And I just pulled up a whole bunch of it and made this huge, fluffy clover bed. And that actually felt like sleeping on a cloud. So that was extremely nice. But sleeping on a hammock also feels to me like sleeping on a cloud. Just, you don't sit on a hammock head and feet parallel to the guide ropes, the ropes attached to the trees. You go diagonal. So your head will be on the right side of the rope above you, and your feet will be on the left side of the rope below you. You go diagonal, and then a hammock is like sleeping on a cloud. It's so comfortable. So I found my preferred way of sleeping when I slept in a hammock the first time. And then I also realized that it was a way easier way to stealth camp. So if you're in countries that don't like it when you sleep outside, but you want to go camping around, a hammock is way less obtrusive and a lot more difficult to identify than a tent. Tents take up a lot more space, and they're usually a lot easier to identify because they have a broad, round, or pointed shape. A hammock is like wiggly, half crescent, and it's sagging, so it looks a little more natural, the shape in the forest. It's just absolutely great for stealth camping. So once I started getting used to the hammock and I had my setup, I realized that I could sleep in pretty much any country that had trees as comfortably as I ever wanted to. And that completely changed how I travel. When I was with a tent, I was like, I have to carry this around. It gets dirty. It's just a hassle. So it didn't really change how I travel. It was just another option for traveling, but it wasn't a comfortable option. When I slept in the hammock for the first time, immediately I was like, whoa, this is going to change everything about how I camp and how I travel in general. And it has. I don't carry one around with me anymore. I've been to Decathlon stores recently, but the single-person hammocks were all out, unfortunately. But I'm going to go to more because I kind of want to pick up a hammock again, and the days that I'm not recording this, like maybe I'll record for 1 week, but then I'll go backpacking for 1 week. Just take a hammock with me. That would be pretty cool. And since we're talking about the hammock, which really did change how I live and change how I travel, I never slept that well. I sleep consistently well in a hammock. I don't, as long as I have the rest of the setup, I don't have a bad sleep in a hammock. Outside is just, I love sleeping in the fresh air. It's the best. But if you're going to sleep in the fresh air, you need a bug net. You need it because the mosquitoes can stab your lower back while you're laying on the hammock at night. They can poke their little noses right through a good, thin, lightweight, heavy-duty fabric. The quick-dry fabric that I prefer from Decathlon, it's thin enough that the mosquitoes can bite me through it. And bugs can crawl in down the ropes and get into your hammock. It just sucks, but it's so easy to make a bug net and it weighs nothing. The bug net, again, I camped with just the hammock for years, for like a long time, maybe 2 years or something. And then after I slept with bugs like the 100th time, I was like, this is crazy. Like, you're not very dumb. You should be able to figure out some kind of bug net situation. And as soon as I started thinking about it, my brain was like, well, just make a bug net tube with drawstrings on either side. And that's what I did. I bought a regular type of bug net and I sewed it into a tube, and then I put a drawstring on the top and bottom and attached that to the hammock rope. And then I just had set up the hammock and pull the bug net over my body, close the drawstring at the top and bottom, done. The one at the bottom is always closed, so you just pull the top over you and then close the top drawstring, and you're completely covered. And it hangs down a little under the hammock so the bugs can't get at you from behind, they can't get at you from above. It's the perfect solution. So yeah, bug net completely changed how I travel. Because I loved sleeping outside in Thailand. Like, I loved the thick smell of the forests and the breeze as it went by, and I loved it. I loved sleeping outside everywhere. I loved sleeping outside in Italy, but I didn't like the bugs. And I'd wake up and grab a mosquito out of the air and be like, ha, got you. But I have to do that 100 times a night. Or I spend $1 in Thailand, that's where I got the bug net the first time, sew it into a tube, put on 2 paracord drawstrings, and I never had a bug after that point. Amazing. Takes it takes how long? Let's say an hour. It doesn't, but let's say 30 minutes. It takes 30 minutes to make this thing. Well, with the drawstrings, an hour. Okay. It takes 1 hour to make it if you've never made one before. It attaches permanently to the hammock, the bug net. You pull it over you, cinch the top drawstring shut, no bugs. So it's a permanent addition to your hammock. It'll last as long as it lasts. I only had one. It lasted the whole decade I used it. Or 7 years now? I don't know. But I know they're fragile. Mine never ripped. It was fragile. I don't know. I didn't drag it against. It was always inside the hammock. And then when I set the hammock up, that's off the ground. So the bug net just never tore. It just worked the whole time. And it takes 5 seconds to set up. Get in your hammock, pull it over your head, cinch the drawstring. It's really like 5 seconds, and then no bugs. So that is an amazing addition to a sleeping setup, and especially a hammock camping setup, because you're not on the ground, so ants aren't going to get you. Oh yeah, I never had ants on me. I guess maybe they don't like climbing the ropes. I don't know. But when you pull the drawstring, it does bunch up the whole bug net anyway, so maybe ants can't even get through. I never had any ants. I never woke up with ants. Yeah, bug net is completely changed how I travel, because now I could sleep in all of the tropical places and I didn't have to worry, in all the tropical forests, and I didn't have to worry about snakes or bugs or whatever coming at me while I slept. The first day I used the bug net, I very distinctly remember it, because I was the straw that broke the camel's back. Not really a straw. There were literally 1,000, and I do mean literally, mosquitoes clouding me in this Thai forest. And that was the day I was like, okay, dum-dum, let's figure out how to solve this problem. And bug net, oh right, make a tube with drawstrings. Made it the next day. That night, I went to the same spot where there were 1,000 bugs, and I put up the hammock, pulled it over my head, cinched it shut, and I had phantom bites a couple times. Like, I had phantom itches, and I was looking around. I was like, oh God, they're still getting in. But I couldn't find any mosquitoes, even though I was feeling them itching me. But I slowly calmed down, and I was like, no, it's nighttime in Thailand hammock camping, so you're just psychosomatically reacting to imaginary mosquitoes. And I could see the hundreds of them outside the bug net above me on the hammock, and none of them were getting in. And I hadn't seen one inside the bug net yet. So it worked from that first day. And I fell asleep, and I hadn't been sleeping because there were so many bugs. And eventually, I put on long-sleeved shirt, but I was in Thailand, so it's like 95 degrees, and I'm wearing a long-sleeved shirt and pants and socks and gloves and a hat, and still getting bitten. It was crazy. I did that for weeks before I realized I could make a bug net hammock cover that was super easy to make. And now it just flicked. Now, even in Thailand or any place with bugs, I could sleep instantly. 5-second addition. Pull it up over me, cinch it closed. 0 bugs. So now I'm back in the most comfortable sleeping setup, a hammock that I love to sleep in. And I also can stop bugs anywhere I am in the world, instantly, with no chemicals or anything. It's just a simple bug net. Fantastic. Just a fantastic achievement. What's next? Okay, so we'll just go through the hammock setup because every part of it changed how I travel significantly. Pretty significant because until Ireland, I was fine with getting rained on because all my stuff is quick dry, so I generally dried pretty quick. But the freezing rain and constant rain in Ireland made me rethink that strategy. I needed some sort of rain tarp because it was dangerous, how cold it was and how constant the rain was. But that was also pretty easily solved. I measured the diagonal length of my hammock when I set it up. I added on 2 feet to each side or so, something like that. And then from the hypotenuse, I figured out how big the tarp would have to be. I went to a hardware store, got clear plastic sheeting, put a grommet in either side, tied paracord, and a carabiner. So there's just 2 ropes of paracord with a carabiner attached. And every time I set up the hammock, if it looked like it was going to rain, or if the weather said it was going to rain, then I would clip the carabiner to one side, clip the carabiner where the rope was tied, the hammock rope was tied to the other tree, clip, clip, coverage for the night. I had trouble because the first time I did it, it didn't work exactly how I wanted, but it was because I didn't make enough overhang. So that's the extra 2 feet on either side I added the second time I got it, the plastic sheeting, and then it worked perfect. And in really windy weather, the tarp would sometimes whip up and the rain tarp would, like one corner would fly off, so I'd be exposed to the elements. So I just put in 2 more grommets on the other 2 corners. Eyelets, I guess. Are they called grommets? Eyelets, those little metal holes. I put in 2 more eyelets on the other 2 corners of the rain sheeting, the rain tarp, and I attached a piece of paracord to each. And if it was really crazy wind and I knew it was going to blow off the rain tarp, I would just reach around and tie the rain sheeting in a knot under the hammock. And then I was in some storms, like straight up thunderstorms. And no matter how crazy the wind got, the rain tarp worked and it didn't blow off or anything. Man, there was this crazy rainstorm in Thailand, but it worked. The rain tarp still stopped the diagonal crazy rain because there's an overhanging the other 2. There's overhang on the top and bottom on your head and your feet so the hammock stays dry. And then there was the tied 2 other corners on either side of you, and they're not getting pulled up, so even crazy diagonal rain isn't hitting me under the rain tarp. So that rain tarp, now the hammock and the bug net were already working, but now I could indefinitely go to any rainy climate. 100, Venezuela. Laos would be interesting. They have pretty crazy monsoon seasons. Thailand has crazy monsoons, but I was perfectly comfortable now everywhere. I think at some point I had to figure out rain dropping from the tree when it was really raining, like a crazy rainstorm. There'd be so much rain that it would run down my hammock ropes tied to the trees into the hammock itself. But paracord is an easy solve to that. I just tied a piece on each rope, and when the drops hit that, the rope's hanging down, so it's lower than the rope. So instead of continuing down the rope to your hammock, the water just goes down the piece of paracord and drips down, so your hammock stays dry. and the rope only gets wet up to where you put the paracord. So yeah, that completely changed how I traveled again, because I wasn't worried about the monsoons that I had gotten rained in and messed up on before. And that was my full hammock camping setup, which completely changed how I traveled. Because at the time I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't invest a lot of my money, and I hadn't started narrating audiobooks then. So I didn't have anything. And I had plenty of savings from China, but I didn't want to spend any of it if I didn't have to. I just wanted to invest it and use it for whatever I wanted to. So I was doing the teaching online with Palfish thing and making a couple $100 a week. But if I was living outside and my rent wasn't an issue, then $200 a month, not a week, is plenty of money for food in most countries. Absolutely more than 2,000 calories of food per day in most countries. And now with the hammock, bug net, foam, and tarp, I didn't mention the foam. Okay, basically get a piece of athletic foam, weighs absolutely nothing, and then I just had that in a roll on my back, and if I was in sub-zero temperatures, then I unrolled it, and when I set up my hammock, I just put that inside the hammock first, laid down on the foam inside the hammock, and then pulled the bug net over and closed it. So if I have to add on the foam time it takes, we'll say like 20 seconds maybe, to take it off, unroll it, and put it inside the hammock. So the bug net and the foam add 25 seconds to your hammock setup, which is about maybe 90 seconds if you're not doing it really fast. So 2 minutes and you have completely protected from all bugs and sub-zero temperatures. And that half inch of athletic foam, as long as get the super light one, as much air, the foam should be as much air as possible. The lighter it is, the better. You don't want something with a heavier rubber, not just because it's heavier to carry, but because that means it has less air in the foam itself. And the more air you have in the foam, the more insulation you have, and the more heat will be bounced back at you. Japan was sub-zero temperatures when I was there, and the week before, I was freezing. I was like shaking the whole night. I kept waking up. I got this lightweight piece of athletic foam, and I was so hot that I couldn't wear my jacket anymore. Like I had to open my sleeping bag and take off all of the layers except for one layer. That's how warm this setup was. So yeah, with the tarp and the foam and the bug net and the hammock, I now had free rent anywhere in the world. In any situation in the world, in any climate in the world, in nearly any place in the world. You know, Antarctica would be tricky, no trees, but anywhere with anchor points or trees was good for me now. I could live rent-free in any of those countries, stealth camp pretty easily because it's a hammock, and save hundreds to thousands on rent that way. If I'm traveling and saving money, boy is that an easy way to do it. Ireland was absolutely $500 a month. Even the hostel I did was like $350 a month. And I was making a maximum of $400 per month, and that was pretty rare. It was much more likely I was making $300 per month from teaching online, just casually. Mostly just having conversations with people, not even formal teaching. And I loved Ireland as soon as I got there. I was like, I'll probably just stay here for 3 months. But I didn't want to stay in the city that whole time. I wanted to get into the nature, so I started backpacking after a couple of weeks. And 3 months, $350 a month, I saved $1,000 during that travel, and I love sleeping outside better than I like sleeping inside, so I was sleeping how I liked to, and I like a hammock much more than a bed. So I was sleeping better in a more comfortable environment for nothing, in a beautiful country with so many cool things to see and visit. And that completely changed my life, completely changed how I traveled and interacted with the world. Because now I could go, it's like the bidet. Now I can choose any house, and I'm going to be pretty comfortable because I have a bidet in any house. With this sleeping setup, now for free, I can travel anywhere, and if I want to save money, I can save money in pretty much every country I've been to. So I Use that hammock setup that I mentioned in Thailand for years, probably. I've visited Thailand so many times for 3 months, 2 months at a time that it might add up to a year. Visited Thailand a lot, and I camped nearly every time. Vietnam for a 3-month bikepacking trip, I was using the hammock setup that whole time. Ireland, I'm not sure how long that was. It was about 2 months, maybe 3, I'm not sure, something like that. I used the hammock setup that whole time. In Portugal, I used the hammock setup. In Italy, I was using the hammock, but I didn't get the whole setup then. Luckily, Italy was just nice while I was there, so I was just using the hammock. Morocco, I used the hammock for a little while. Oh, Japan, 3-month walk across Japan, used the hammock the whole time. Extremely comfortable. Yeah, everywhere. I used it everywhere. I saved thousands in rent over the years from sleeping better in a environment I liked more. It's having the right sleep setup, especially if you like hammocks. I mean, having the right hammock setup saves you tons of money, and it's more comfortable than a bed for me. So loved it. Completely changed my life. Changed how I travel. I felt so much more in tune with the countries. I felt like I was experiencing the country much more deeply by living outdoors in the country and just looking out over everything, watching the sunrises. So cool. Waking up in a freaking cherry blossom orchard in Japan with the petals. Insane. Absolutely insane. Can't recommend hammock camping enough. What else completely changed how I travel and how I live my life? Fasting. When fasting worked for me in China, especially considering runny noses and like sneezing, I was like, oh snap. And now I do 1 meal a day. So we eat within a 4-hour window. Usually, I've been really crappy here in Panama, I think just because the food's so good and there's so much stuff to try that I've been bad about it. But I'll go back to 1 meal a day. But fasting, if I'm sick, I will fast and my body will heal itself. It works pretty well. I don't think it would heal itself as quickly anyway. It definitely seems like the runny nose is a great example. If I have a runny nose, normally, like back in the days when I was eating 3 meals a day and snacks, that runny nose could last days or a week, me wiping my nose with paper or the back of my hand or my sleeve, and it just doesn't stop running. I'm sure everyone is familiar with this. But back before I started fasting or 1 meal a day, my runny noses lasted for a very long time, often days. After I started using fasting to counter irritating symptoms like runny noses, the process got pretty simple. I don't eat, and the longer I don't eat, the faster the runny nose goes away. So after like a couple hours, it'll definitely be less, and then after 4 hours, there's not going to be much of a runny nose, and after 8 hours, your nose is not running. My nose does not run. It just stops my nose from running. And I have eaten before after like half a day of fasting, and then my nose will start running again, and I'm like, I should have waited longer. But if I wait a full day and I have a cold, that cold's gone. Like, the fasting kicks its butt. This just happened because I didn't fast. I had a cold, maybe it was last year. It was, I don't know, India. Yeah, so that was a while ago now. But I was in India and I ate so much sugar that I think I gave myself a cold. And I was like sneezing. I had a crazy runny nose. And instead of fasting, I just kept eating and pretty normally. I think I was still doing 1 meal a day, but I was just eating normally. I kept eating and I still had a runny nose every day. And I was like, geez, when was the last time I had a runny nose? And I kind of forgot about fasting because it had been so long since I had any symptoms like a runny nose. I do 1 meal a day, which is another one. I'll briefly touch on that next. But I was like, oh, fasting always stops your runny noses. And I fasted and my runny nose stopped that day. And then I kept fasting for like an extra day. So I think it was like a 36-hour fast or something. And then I started eating normal again and I wasn't sick anymore. And this was like constantly running nose for 3 days. It was just pretty awful for a couple days until I remembered and started fasting. It was really bad. It was like a terrible runny nose. I was so irritated because I was like, no, I don't get these anymore. Meanwhile, I'm like eating handfuls of sugar, basically. Yeah, I ate a lot of ice cream and soda and not super healthy stuff, but I wasn't drinking any beer, so that was good. But I certainly could have been eating more healthy. So fasting changed my life because all of a sudden I realized that I could control my body. The first time it felt really weird not eating because we eat in the US. Like, that's the national pastime. That's all we do in our free time. We eat. So I had never not eaten before. I grew up with food constantly available, and I took advantage of that because there it was. Everybody, if you have a bucket of great food right next to you, yeah, just keep eating it. Especially in American culture where it's just like eat more. Have a snack in between eating. Eat between your eats. So the first time I fasted, I was kind of surprised, one, at how easy it was, and then also after I had finished doing a 24-hour fast, how in control of my body I felt. I was shocked at how much control I felt over my body and how sensitive my body now felt, like how clearly I could hear the signals from my stomach. The day after I ate some bready thing, and my body was like, ew, no, you don't need to eat that. And it was so clear. It was like if I bit into a raw piece of meat, and my body was like, no, don't eat that. That's how strong this was when I bit into this sweet breakfast pastry. My body was like, no, get an apple. And it was just like so clearly telling me to go eat something healthy instead. And as an experiment, I ate the rest of the pastries, and I got a runny nose, and I sneezed all day, and it sucked. And then I listened to my body after that. But yeah, fasting was absolutely fascinating because it clearly had very distinct physiological effects on my body. Like, there was no mistaking that my nose stopped running when I stopped eating, or I wasn't itchy anymore when I stopped eating, or I don't know about the speed of wound healing because I didn't get like stabbed real bad since I started fasting. So I'd be interested about that. But it really does help me with any normal gross symptoms like phlegmy or runny nose or anything like that. I fast, gets rid of it in an hour or two, and then it's gone. It's awesome. One meal a day is a more comprehensive thing. I do fasting if there's something I want to fix immediately, but I'll usually eat once a day. And I do the 1 meal a day, so I have an eating window of 4 hours, and I did that very strictly for years because it works so well, and I still do it. I still have an eating window. If I eat within a shorter amount of time, my stomach processes food easier. I don't get indigestion or never get stomach aches. I usually didn't get stomach aches anyway, but in China I started having troubles, gut troubles, when I was, after I lived there for a few years, and I was eating and drinking constantly there. But after my stomach started gurgling and rumbling and just wasn't feeling very comfortable and toilet trips became less comfortable, I decided to try the 1 meal a day thing. And man, okay, 1 meal a day, instantly from one day to the next, no stomach trouble anymore. And I could eat anything I wanted and as much as I wanted, as long as it was within those 4 hours. If it's within the 4 hours or even 2 hours, totally fine. Like, eat whatever, your stomach's not going to rumble, it's not going to attack me. It just makes toilet trips normal and eating totally normal, and I can just feast as much as I want, just within 4 hours instead of throughout the entire day. And a side effect that I hadn't really thought about was how much time I was going to save. After I started doing 1 meal a day, I couldn't believe how often other people ate and for what amount of time. I started noticing that the trips I had been taking in China, well, let's go get a rojiamua for lunch. Oh, let's go get some baozi for breakfast. That could be an hour at breakfast. You have to go there, so there's a commute, 10 minutes. let's say they already have it made, the baozi, they give it to you. Sit down, wait for them to bring the tea, drink, eat, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Let's get another round. It's really good. Another 10 minutes. So far it's been 40 minutes. You have to go back home, get ready for the workday. So an hour, 15 minutes back home, let's say. There's traffic this time, so it takes 5 minutes. But that's 1 hour gone. Did you need that food? Did you need the steamed buns? No. You're going to eat 2,000 calories for lunch. You don't need breakfast. I didn't. I'm going to talk about me because this is exactly what I did. I didn't need those baozi. I ate them because they were tasty and they were very convenient to pick up from anywhere, and they were cheap and they were fun to eat. And so I ate them every morning. I spent 15 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe if I was with other people, up to an hour for breakfast. Or maybe we're going to a dim sum place, so we have to wait to get a table for 15 minutes. It was just a lot of time for one meal. And that was the quick meal. So we could say it's usually 30 to 45 minutes for breakfast. But for lunch, way more likely to be longer than an hour. Got to go to the restaurant you like. Got to get a bigger meal. You're probably going to be waiting because everyone's getting lunch at the same time. And while breakfast in China is go walk, pick up the baozi, keep on walking, lunch is usually much more of a sit-down thing. You'll get the lu rou huashao, or you'll get the hui guo rou, or whatever. But you have to wait for them. It's going to be a more involved dish that it won't already be made, like the hui guo rou. So let's say it's a fast guy and you only wait 5 minutes. So it takes you 15 minutes to get there. He does have to get to your order first, so let's throw on another 5 minutes. So 10 minutes, you get your food. But that could easily be 20 minutes you're waiting to get your food also. That happens a lot if you're in a good restaurant with a bunch of other people in it. But we'll say 10 minutes. And then you have a meal. You might have a meal. So easily 30 minutes. Get a couple beers. Get one more beer. Or a Coke, whatever. Easy to spend 45 minutes in a restaurant for lunch with a heavy meal. And if you're going with someone else, you guys could easily talk for half an hour. I did that all the time for lunch. Get a couple beers, talk with your friend, eat the good food, maybe we'll get one more. And then 90 minutes is gone. So that's an hour in the morning, another 90 minutes now for lunch. In between that, walking down to the store, spend money, go get a little snack between classes or whatever, a couple times a day. Or if I'm cooking for myself, just cooking rice, just easy rice, water, turn on the rice cooker. You have to wait 20 to 30 minutes. You have to wait 20 to 30 minutes. That was time I could be using for something else, and after I started doing one meal a day, I did use for other things. Oh, and restroom breaks, because the more often I eat, the more often I use the restroom. So the one meal a day also cuts down on restroom breaks for me, how often I have to visit the restroom, and how much more of an ordeal that trip might be. Much less trouble with one meal a day for me. My guts are calm. So every day, pretty easy to round down to 2 hours, but every day that's 2 to 3 hours on extra time, like extra snack trips, extra food trips that I didn't need to get the amount of calories I needed for energy. You can eat way more than, you can eat 2,000 calories or 3,000 calories depending on how much you weigh and how big you are. Yeah, you can eat that super easily in 4 hours. That's not at all an issue. So one of the side effects of starting to eat one meal a day, I did it so my gut would just be healthy again, and that worked startlingly quickly. That just instantly, my gut health was great after I started doing one meal a day. But then I realized I had so much more time. I had 2.5 hours at least of extra time every single day. I wrote some stories and I started drawing comics again. I did the curriculum. I made up a whole curriculum for the school. I created, I had so much time because I was only eating one meal a day that this list of things that I had that popped up, I was like, oh, I can actually get all of the things I wanted to do done. All of these hobbies, side projects, or real projects like the school curriculum, new curriculum, I could feasibly achieve because that's a lot of time. 2.5 hours a day, and there's no commute, which could be bad, so it could be more hours per day. That's a swift 15 hours a week that I could spend on all of these projects. And some of the projects, only take 5 hours or 2 hours. So I could get multiple projects done every week. And after a while, I did. I finished all my projects and I had to start looking for new stuff. I started listening to podcasts, so much more time with one meal a day. So I could eat all the food I liked. I was spending less money. I was spending less time on food, drastically less time. I was getting a lot more done. Yeah, it just completely changed my life again. I have more time in the day still now to get things done, to get podcasts done. So yeah, fasting and one meal a day, two related, very influential lifestyles that I have adopted. But regarding traveling and food in particular, well, what about cooking? I still had to spend money on food. So what changed my life there? The alcohol stove. That cookware set I got, a compact foldable cookware set, and the alcohol stove I made out of 2 Coke can bottom halves, or really like bottom 20%. That alcohol stove, now I could buy a bag of vegetables for $2 anywhere, and that's with a curry block and some water. That's a 2,000 calorie plus meal. Absolutely delicious. I love curry. Healthy vegetables, noodles, and I can set it up anywhere because the alcohol stove is completely portable and really easy to set up. Takes 2 minutes to light, maybe, in the worst conditions. Mine was down to a minute, less than a minute by my final iteration of the alcohol stove. So you set it up in a minute, you are cooking a curry with noodles, vegetables, and meat. And then you enjoy your meal and you fall asleep in your perfect hammock. Ooh, next to a river on a mountain sometimes. So cool. I guess we can throw curry blocks into kind of changing my life because it's so much flavor and it's so many good calories. The flavor was so good of Japanese curry that I ate it nearly every day and never got bored of it. For 3 months straight of backpacking, walking 30 miles a day for 3 months, and every day I would eat another curry block mixed with meat, vegetables, noodles, just have another great curry. And every day I was like, that was delicious. But yeah, the cookware setup really rocked because just being able to also make food anywhere, and it costs nothing, like $3. Now I was spending less than $100 a month, so I was still saving money, even bringing in $250 a month. Not that I was particularly concerned about it, it was just super cool that now with the cookware set, I had food anywhere because I always had noodles and curry block in my bag. Takes up very little space, tastes great, and it's healthy calories. Yeah, it was kind of like the last component in being able to live anywhere near, like an urban society anyway. Anytime there were towns less than 100 miles apart, good to go, because the food's in my backpack, there's going to be water somewhere. I had the Sawyer mini filter at the time, which filters water really great, and it filters like some crazy amount, like some 10,000 gallons or something per each mini filter. Worked so great. Now, there are a ton of these things that changed my life or changed how I travel, and I never wrote them down. So although they happened a lot, I'm just putting down the ones that first came to my mind. And so I'm going to wrap it up soon because we're on to legal public camping, which I didn't even realize was a thing, that some countries thought it was cool to camp. And once I realized Japan was one of those countries that was totally fine with legal public camping and was also societally inclined and encouraged public camping, that totally changed my life because that was the 3-month backpacking trip. When I found out it was cool to backpack in Japan according to other people who had done it, and then I went there myself and yes, Japanese people are totally okay with public camping. I was like, okay, then I'm doing this for the whole visa. And it was 90 days at the time. So I landed, went into the city, and then walked on out and kept walking for 3 months. All day, checking out different cultural sites and just exploring Japan from east to west. It was very fun and very cool. And that might have been the first year I saw the cherry blossoms in bloom also. It was just perfect. It was so great. That completely changed my life and changed how I looked at traveling. That the fact that there were countries so different than the US or Italy, especially, I remember, were kind of private about, very strict about camping. There were other countries who were like, well, of course you want to travel and see new things. Of course you want to learn and comfortably wander the world. It just, again, reinforced that I had no idea what was happening throughout the world. And I loved that trip. And it made the openness of the world bigger. It connected me. It made me more comfortable with the whole rest of the world to know that there was a policy that encouraged traveling like in this way that I like so much, that so many countries were like, no, you can't do that. You can only live in sedentary dwellings. Moving around is bad. Understanding that I was able to legally camp in many more countries and even spaces in the US, the BLM land, was extremely comforting and inspiring. And I never really got over that feeling. Which brings me to my next point. RVs. Living in a vehicle? I had always thought that an RV would be a dirty, boring life. Like, it would be cool because you got to adventure, but the RV itself, they're so popular in the US, but in popular culture, they're the butt of every joke. Like, they're white trash, poor, no amenities, broken vehicles. Like, there's just such a bad view of them in popular culture that I believed some of it until I got my own RV. And I couldn't believe it. I love RVs now, and I'm bringing it up right after the public camping because once I lived in an RV, just like the first time I had the hammock set up, slept in a hammock, or the first time I public camped, the RV opened up the world to me. I was like, oh, okay, I could live in the US if I was living in an RV because, yeah, the good obvious part is that I get to travel everywhere, but I have better amenities than most housing. Like, I had a full kitchen, full-size refrigerator, full stovetop, oven, more storage space than I ever need. A queen-sized bed in the back. It's easy to work on. They cost nothing because there's so many. You can get a good working RV with 30,000 miles on it for $4,000 US. Some of them are literally $1,500. Like, it's crazy how cheap they are in parts of the US, in many parts of the US, really outside of cities. If you're inside a city, yeah, 4,000, you can get a great to 10,000 maybe if you want to spend a lot, but 4,000 is a pretty reasonable amount to expect for a totally working, low mileage RV. And if you're even out in the suburbs, not to mention the country, it's very easy to find something under $2,000 with all the amenities that's running well with low mileage. It seems to be because they're bulky, so people just want to get rid of them. But if you only have a few $1,000s and you have to make that stretch, how about buying a vehicle once, insurance for a year, total $5,000 maybe? My insurance was $150 a year for my Winnebago. And then never paying rent again. Imagine how much money you would have if you didn't pay rent every month. For me, it was $1,600 when I got my $4,500 RV. So fully paid for itself within 3 months. And I did the math. It turned out to be less than $200 per month buying with all repairs included for the year I owned the RV and all food and everything. My expenses were like nothing. It was crazy. The propane, the gasoline, all the utilities. Just hot shower, and I had zero rent. So pretty awesome. And I had started to narrate books by that point. So I was bringing in a little bit of money with that. And that was all savings basically after $200 because there was no rent. And I was traveling across the country, drove from Arizona to Seattle, around Washington, then back down across the country. It was great. Great stuff. Sounds pretty good. And also just because I loved living in the RV so much. I had solar panels on the top that I installed, all the storage, and I could drive anywhere I wanted. It was so much fun. And it fits in regular parking lots, so you can stop at any supermarket and you can cook right there. So much fun and so easy and so cheap. There's BLM land, so it's free to camp. People love it. Everybody wants to talk about how they like the RV. Except for this one rude old lady. But whatever, everyone else was really cool about it. Oh snap, you know what else? After the RV, okay, 2 other things kind of changed my perspective on things. The crochet lady. There was a lady I liked to get jiaozi from, which are like pot stickers in Taiwan. And I was getting jiaozi one day and I saw her crocheting. And I asked her how to do it. She taught me how to do it. And ever since then, I can make clothes. I can crochet scarves, and I did, that I wore for years, especially in Sub-Zero Japan. The scarf was fantastic. And I made super warm socks by crocheting, and yeah, that definitely changed my life because I was like, oh wow, this is making clothes. This is another fundamental human need that you can solve with a stick. It was pretty crazy to make a scarf for the first time and then just wear it. Just wear something I made. Totally crazy. So yeah, crocheting Taiwan lady. And this one's interesting, from Oktoberfest. This is the last thing for this one. This entry into things that changed my life. A vegan girl. There was this vegan girl at Oktoberfest, and we were talking about horses, and I think something happened. She asked if I rode one. I said I did when I was a kid. I haven't in a while. And she says, you shouldn't ride horses. And I was like, what are you talking about, vegan girl? And she said, well, they don't want to carry you. And I was like, but they were bred for carrying people. Like, that's what the horses were bred for, so they can carry people. It's safe. And she was like, well, yeah, but you can carry a heavy backpack, but do you want to carry a backpack that weighs 20% of your weight all day or for 5 hours? And she said that, and my brain clicked, and I was like, oh, no, I don't. Of course horses don't want to carry something on their back all day that's bumping into them all day. Yeah, maybe they're used to it, and they're good at carrying things, but what do you think is more comfortable for the horse? Carrying something on it all day and straining its muscles and spine, or running by itself as its own animal, independent of being commandeered? Yeah, probably the second one. Like, there's no way a horse would rather carry something on its back if it didn't have to. That's why you have to break in every horse. That's why horses must be broken in, because they don't want to carry stuff. You have to make them accept that they're going to carry you. So that vegan girl at Oktoberfest, who I didn't get her information from, much to my chagrin because she was super cool and expanded my mind, and was hot, changed my life, changed my perspective on a lot of animals, not just because it was a service animal like a horse. I just started thinking and I was like, it was the first time I really thought about horses as feeling individuals. And then I was like, oh man, if horses feel, then cows probably feel. Pigs are definitely smart, so I know they feel something. And then I became a lot more compassionate toward animals. Kept eating them, but I've kind of accepted that burden, and I look forward to the day when lab-grown meat is common and you can just eat meat without having to kill an animal. But I view modern society as basically cavemen in suits and have for most of my life. So I don't feel too bad about me being a caveman eating animals. It's animals eat animals. It makes perfect sense to me. It makes way more sense to me than a horse carrying something on its back all day and enjoying it. That doesn't click. That does not track. Yeah, that was really interesting. That's still an interesting idea to me. That I went 30 years before it occurred to me that horses probably don't like carrying things that bump into their back all day, that weigh a significant percentage of their own body weight. Especially once I thought about the backpack thing. I was like, if I carried around a 30-pound backpack or a 40-pound backpack for 2 hours, how much would I be enjoying this? Even if the backpack was full of candy, tacos, even if it was a taco, 40 pounds of tacos in a backpack on my back, that wouldn't be comfortable. And horses don't get to carry around tacos. They just get to carry around stinky humans. So yeah, I am pretty firmly against riding horses. I don't protest it, and I don't bring it up to every horse rider I see. But if they ask if I like it, I'll explain no, because I don't think they like it. It makes more sense to me that the horse doesn't like carrying something than the horse likes carrying something on its back that is heavy. And they get injured pretty often, and they probably get injured because they're carrying something heavy on their back, or they're forced to run faster than they feel comfortable with. Yeah, so I got a bit of tree hugger, which changed my life, that Munich Oktoberfest. She was cool because she explained it how I explain a lot of things to people. She knew that she couldn't come straight at you with confrontation, but she brought up a new, interesting perspective and let you sit in it. And I could see that she could see my cogs working, my gears turning after she said that. They probably don't like carrying something heavy on their back all day, even if they're good at it. And I was like, snip, snap, you got my number. But I didn't give her my number because I'm a fool. That's all right. She was vegan and I was not going to stop eating whole ducks. So probably wouldn't have. What if it did? Okay, I gotta go. Thank you so much for listening. I love seeing the little ticks, boop, boop. Someone else listened to your dumb rant. Fantastic. You can contact me at bitofarambler@gmail.com or bitofarambler on all the other socials. I will catch you on the flip flop.